Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review for The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. We're going to be preemptive and just stick them down there because there's absolutely no way I'm holding this throughout the duration of this video. To be honest, this video was actually supposed to be a reading vlog. It was supposed to be me experiencing The Way of Kings for the first time ever, because I have been dragging my feet on reading this book and series, even though I've been excited for it and I thought it would have been a cool experience, but it did not go to plan. Number one, October is notoriously not a great mental health month for me, and my energy levels super dip when the mental health isn't great, so the clips I had were just me not quite tuned in. Also, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and it's not very exciting to constantly be in my room on my bed reading. I've been sitting here struggling with how to pitch this book because there are a lot of factors and a lot of things going on with the story, but the best way I can describe it is 5 years before the book starts, the king of one of these major countries is murdered by an entire different race of beings, and then we fast forward 5 years later and follow 4 different main perspectives. The first being Dalinar. He is the uncle to the king, the current king, and the high prince of one of these nations. He is increasingly worried by the state of this war and has been getting these visions warning him about the future. We follow Kaladin, who is Dalinar's son. He is increasingly worried by the state and mental well-being of his father, all the while trying to protect his father and his people from surrounding enemies. We then follow Shallan, not sure how to say her name. She is from an inconsequential ruling family, and her family is in deep shit. So she is going to try and con this incredibly powerful and heretical woman into saving her family's skin. And then we follow Kaladin, who's kind of shrouded in a bit of mystery, and he used to serve in the king's army, but is now branded a slave and a deserter, and he is doing the most difficult work for the armies at the front of this war, and he is basically just trying to survive. That is the best and most succinct way that I can sum up this series, because this series is, I think, projected to be a 10-book series with 2 major 5-book arcs. And there's a lot going on in it. As always, we're going to start off with world building. My favorite aspect to Brandon Sanderson's storytelling and writing, and specifically in this series, I am blown away, impressed, couldn't get over how cool the world building was. Something that I think Brandon Sanderson does so well is that he considers world building at a macro level and then also the micro level. He considers every aspect of it and then clearly describes it to the reader, and there's no room for doubt or confusion really, other than just you're learning a new world that has multiple countries and different customs. I was expecting greatness from his world building, and that is indeed what we got. I love, as always, his considerations behind religion and God. One of my favorite things that he explores in his works, and how different people view religion. There were such trivial things that were affected by magic that were just the norm in this world that I really loved. The currency was affected. The nature itself is affected by the magic, and then there are these little magical beings that literally affect every aspect of life and emotion that come into being, that it was so cool and inventive. A lot of times I think authors will just write our world or in a type of our world in history and just change a couple things, but this truly felt so different, which I really loved. And the one thing that really irked me about that, because it was so fresh and new, was the fact that it's so rigidly patriarchal. Did it have to be? I don't know why everything else could be so reimagined, and yet the gender roles are so very stark. I do like the fact that women are scholars and that kind of stuff, but the rigidity of the world kind of annoyed me, and it's something that has been bothering me on a grander scale, so it's not just Brandon Sanderson's fault, but it was really stark and apparent to me in this go around, and It's the closest thing I'm ever going to do to make a video on this topic, because I don't feel like being murdered by gatekeepers today on the internet. So the characters in here, I really like them this time, and I know it's another unpopular Sanderson opinion, but I didn't love a couple key characters from the Mistborn trilogy, and I was really hoping and looking forward to the characters in this story, and I think they are done very well, and the development in here is great. They are dynamic, well-developed characters that leap off the page. The second you are introduced to them, you know who they are as people and like kind of what they stand for and what makes them tick, and I think that's just a testament to good writing. You know who these people are. They do face challenges and are challenged specifically in their ideals. I think every single one of them has to face not a crisis of conscience, but sometimes, and then come out the other side and see what they believe and see what has changed, but also they still are at the core of themselves. It was an interesting reading experience, honestly. I'm so used to reading characters who are like very morally gray and make morally dubious decisions and don't really care about the consequences. Yet these characters, although they could make morally dubious decisions, are like upright and upstanding, like lawful good type characters, and it was interesting, and I did really like the shift and the change. I particularly really enjoyed Kaladin's story arc. His stuff was really, really interesting. And then also Shallan, I'm not sure how to say her name, and I'm not going on a wiki of them, because then I'll know if they're alive, dead. And we're approaching the 4th book, coming out literally probably almost exactly when I'm releasing this video. So I also thought there were so many great side characters. I really liked Rock. I really liked Jasnah. She's one of the ones that I actually figured out how you're supposed to say her name, because I was saying Jasnah. Yeah, I was really impressed with his characterization this go around. Super impressed. Well done. The plot definitely, I think, was a bit weaker than his other aspects of this story, because this book is essentially one giant setup book. It was interesting, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this was the most boring thing I've ever read, but because this is to be such a grand scale epic story, there is a lot that has to be set up. So the plot takes a little bit of a back seat. I do like how this slowly and steadily builds to a greater conflict in this one book. There were a couple parts of the plot as well that were a little bit repetitive, especially with Dalinar. If you've read it, I'm sure you know that I think could have been trimmed down or shortened a wee bit. And also, I wasn't a fan of the romance in here. The one thing that I was expecting a little bit that we didn't quite get was as an explosive of an ending that I'm used to from Sanderson. The only thing I have read from him is the Mistborn trilogy, and each one of those books have explosive endings that are like just like you can't put the books down for the last 200, 300 pages because of everything that's going on. We didn't quite get that in here, and it's fine. I did love like the very end reveals and what that meant for the series and like the direction it was going. There were a couple reveals where I was absolutely shocked, not expecting it whatsoever, and made me really want to pick up the sequels right away. At first I was just like, yeah, it was fine, standard fantasy writing. The more I thought about it and the more I was planning for this review, I was impressed with the way he wrote the story. I think his writing shines so well with his world building, because he very easily could have fucked up this story. He very easily could have just been like world build and like made this so dense that it wasn't fun to enjoy at all. But everything is well timed and well placed throughout the story. The way backstories are interspersed in here to keep you reading and to keep you informed on the characters, I think it just was put together so well, so cleverly, and that's what made this book successful. I also think he does a great job with description and depicting his worlds. I am someone who can struggle sometimes imagining certain things, especially with fantasy, but I could picture this world so clearly because Sanderson does a good job describing his world vividly, and can be dense at sometimes. I take that back. I'm not going to say dense, but he takes his time to, I don't know, depict a city or whatever, and you really get the feel of it. And I think that's also just really well done. The more and more I read from Sanderson, the more and more I appreciate his actual technical ability. And I think it shines in here as well. So ultimately, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did not give it the 5 stars like I was expecting. I didn't even put this on a 5-star predictions list because I thought it was like so obvious that I was going to give this book 5 stars, but 4.5. It was really good. It's definitely a book set up for a huge series, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself while reading it. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on The Way of Kings. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!